All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone that's watching is having a good evening or afternoon, depending on where in the country you are. This is Thinking Beyond Borders Google Alumni Hangout. And here we're just going to talk about what it's like to be a student on the program, and specifically on the AGS semester program. So feel free to type in questions. There's a question and answer section on the tab. There's a side tab that says Q&A. So feel free to send in your questions and we'll try to answer those. But before we jump in, I'll introduce ourselves. My name is Kasha. I am the Alumni Fellow, which means that I did the program about 5 years ago. I did the Global Gap Year. So the 7-month program, and it was awesome, best 7 months of my life. And then after going to school and graduating, I now am their first fellow working for Thinking Beyond Borders. So it's good to come full circle. But girls, I'll turn the time over to you guys.
Okay, I'm Lauren. I did the South Asia gap semester in the fall of 2014. I am currently a first year at the University of Virginia. And
I'm Caitlin. Lauren and I were on the same trip together. I go to school in Wilmington, North Carolina, UNCW. So Lauren's about 5 hours away from me, but we actually hang out all the time. Since the trip, we've been best friends. And I flew out, she's from Colorado, and I flew out there for spring break to be with her and her family. And so, I mean, just the connections you make through this program alone are unbelievable.
So. Yeah. We still keep in touch.
Good. A lot of people wonder that. Okay, so let's start in. Let's start with our first question. Let's just start with, why did you girls decide to take a gap year or a gap semester?
Do you want to go first or should I?
You got it.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to do a gap year because my older brother had done a gap year too, and it was just such a positive experience for him that I felt like I didn't want to let this opportunity go. I also felt like I just wanted to do something a little bit different from my peers and my friends. And I just felt like by doing a gap year, I could have both the benefit of a gap year experience plus the benefit of college. Like I wasn't missing out on college. I was just going to have my college experience start a year later. So I felt like there was really nothing to lose in doing a gap year, but really everything to gain. And I still, even to this day, I feel like that's been absolutely true.
Yes, and for me, I guess I just didn't really have a great idea of what I wanted to do going into college, and that kind of scared me. And there were just so many unanswered questions that I had about the whole world, and all I had ever seen was North Carolina and the town and city that I grew up with, and I just really wanted to broaden my horizons and expand outward and see everything that the world had to offer, and TBB definitely gave me that.
Cool. Good answers, girls. Yeah, ditto everything they say. Gap year is great. It's a great experience to just take a break from the crazy learning culture that public school has you in, or school in general. So it's good to go out and kind of rediscover yourself, rediscover the world, and figure out where you're going to fit in at all. It's great. All right, next question. What was your guys' favorite work project? So just so everybody knows, every country you go to, you do a work project everywhere you go, or in every core country. And so every day you're going day to day helping people with some sort of project. So girls, which one was your favorite out of the ones you guys did?
I'm gonna go first. I feel like I know which one was yours.
Yeah, mine was definitely Thailand. When we were studying sustainable agriculture, we were in a village called Don Jiang outside of Chiang Mai. And it was just this super amazing experience, these super incredible people. So the village that we were staying in actually kind of started this whole organic farming revolution almost. They were the first of their area to break away from like farming with pesticides and farming with providing their money to big farming industries, and instead they broke away and did it on their own and did it all organically and sustainably. And so it was a really big step for this area. And rice farming is a lot of hard work, especially without the use of pesticides. So it was hard work, but it was really enriching work, and just amazing people. And yeah, I just love Thailand so much, and I really loved my experience in my village and with my host parents. And yeah, that was like the happiest I've ever been.
So I also loved that work project. It was just incredible getting to walk through these beautiful rice fields every day, to go work with these Thai villagers on their organic farms. Like, just such an incredible experience. And I echo everything Caitlin said. But I also, the only other work project we did was in India, because we just had 2 core countries. And that was a really difficult experience, working where we did in India, but it was also, it was so rewarding. And I felt like what I learned through that work experience, I cannot imagine not knowing now. To be a little bit more specific about what we did, we were working with informal schools, volunteering as teachers at informal schools in slum areas. For 5 weeks, we would go there for about 4 hours every weekday, teaching English and computer skills. And so, like I said before, it was a very difficult experience. It was hard for us coming in, teaching these students when we had no teaching experience ourselves. And it was hard teaching these students that often didn't know English. They only knew Hindi. But I can give a much longer, lengthier answer to this question, but I'll try and keep it short. But I felt like I learned so much about how you as a volunteer have to go about your volunteering, especially when you're volunteering abroad. And so that was just an incredibly enriching experience for me to kind of understand our role as white Americans coming into these Indian slums and teaching these children. So it was a very, very thought-provoking, gratifying experience.
Awesome. Wow, great answers, guys. Those are good, meaty answers. Okay. Okay, this is kind of a fun question. What was your guys' favorite meal on the trip?
Oh my gosh, so hard.
So many favorite meals. My favorite snack was banana chips. Everyone in my group can attest to this. I would have like 6 bags of banana chips every day. It was just like really thinly sliced, fried and covered in salt, and just so good. I ate this all the time. But I think my favorite meal was, it was actually my 19th birthday. Mm-hmm. We went to this restaurant in India called Chokidani, and they laid down these huge green leaves from banana trees, and these men just came around, in their attire, and they had turbans on and these big cauldrons, and we're just like glopping food onto our leaves. And so we had so many different things, and we were just dipping our chapati bread into all these different sauces and meats, and it was just so cool. So many different things, and we all like had to unbutton our pants during that meal. Like it was a huge meal, but it was really fun and really cool. Great birthday celebration for sure.
It's such a hard question to answer because there were so many memorable meals. I mean, all the food was just excellent, but there were so many memorable meals. But one, I think, exceptionally memorable meal was our Thanksgiving, which we had in India. Our program leaders, they kind of coordinated this for us, where we got to go to the top of this building, sit on the rooftop, and just like lay out these blankets and have this huge Indian feast. And it was not your traditional Thanksgiving, but equally as good. It was so good.
Awesome. And just so the viewers know, on the GAPS program semester for the Asia GAPS semester, we no longer go to India. We go to China instead.
Oh, wow.
So these are exciting. I love India as well. But just so everybody knows, you're scared to go to India. We don't go there anymore. You go to China. Thailand and China. Just before people get too excited about India. You want to go to India for a global gap year.
The food in Thailand is good too.
Thai food's so good. Okay.
So good.
What was the language barrier like? Was it hard?
Yeah, it was okay. So in Thailand, it was at times it was harder than others. I would say for all of the time when we were not living in the Thai village, we always had someone with us that spoke Thai, and so they could help us and get around. But so it was never really an issue. Even when we were like in a market, for example, and didn't have our translator right with us, you just get really good at playing charades and you can communicate what you need to communicate. And so it's actually kind of fun, like working through that language barrier. And then even when we were with our Thai host families, they didn't speak a word of English, but we did have a translator with us who could help us if we really needed that. But we also learned a little bit of Thai. So we knew how to say what we needed to say. And when we didn't, there was just a lot of smiling and hand gestures. And so it was hard, but we were never in a situation that I can remember where like I desperately needed to say something in Thai or have someone understand me when they couldn't. So it was never a hugely disastrous issue. But it was a fun challenge.
And it's amazing how close you can become with your host families and the people that you meet, even without communicating with the same language. Like, I became so close with my host parents, and we never even had a full-on conversation besides me saying, Di chon cha pon lamai, like, I like fruit, and them like laughing and hugging me. And it's just, they love to see you try, even if you butcher whatever you say. Yeah. And it's also great to see them try as well to learn English. I know one day I was having, and especially, it was like one of my harder days on the trip. I was just tired, and I had been working in the rice field for a while, and I went out by myself because someone had gotten hurt. So it was, I don't know, it was just like a tricky day, and I wasn't in the best of spirits. And I came home, and my host dad, I was getting ready for bed, and he comes over to me and he was like, brush teeth. And that was like the first English I had heard him say, and I just started crying, and I was so happy, and we just had this like big long hug, and like he was so proud of himself for saying it right. And so it's really cool. Like it's fun to play around with the different ways of communicating. So yeah, but like Lauren said, there was never a time where I couldn't get across what I needed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in India, I mean, I guess this doesn't really apply because the program now is in China, but in India it wasn't an issue because so many people spoke English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, on my global gap year, just so we have a China story in there. So we went to China on our global gap year, and yeah, it was tricky. I mean, every day we had like Chinese or Mandarin lessons like 2 times a week. But I don't know if you guys have ever tried to learn Mandarin. It's probably the hardest language ever. But yeah, exactly. Like you learn what you need to learn. I knew where's the bathroom, and I don't eat dog, and I'm full, which is important. But yeah, I remember kind of the same, like this really awesome moment when after dinner, me and my host dad kind of had like this ritual where we would always sit down together and we would tea in like the super traditional way. And then one night he just like whipped out a harmonica and just started playing on his harmonica. And I love music. I grew up in musical theater and whatnot. And then he's playing the song Edelweiss, which I was familiar with because I love the musical Sound of Music, and that song's in it. And so he was playing it, and I just started singing along. And then my host mom came in, and she was just like clapping along, and it was like this beautiful little musical moment where like we really hadn't communicated really at all, except for, you know, a few like gestures, but it was this really cool moment that we felt like really united, and it was through music. So it was, I did know what these girls are saying. If you can't communicate through words, there's always other ways. And it's still like one of my like most tender moments and memories that I have from my trip. So it's cool. Okay, next question. What did you guys get sick, and how did you deal with that?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I never got very sick. I think the biggest health issue I had was actually like some virus that I got, and it kind of infected my lips, which sounds really bizarre, but I did have to go to a doctor for that. But it was a very simple process. Like TBB always makes sure that you see a doctor when you need to see a doctor. So I saw someone that I needed to see very promptly, got some medicine for that, and it was taken care of very easily. So it was not really an issue. I don't think that's a common medical problem that people experience on TBB. So not the best example, but
yeah. I got a like kind of a bronchial infection when I was in India. I think it was related to probably the pollution in the city we were in. But yeah, I was able to go to the doctor and get cough medicine, and our leaders were super helpful the whole time. Like anytime you even have the smallest like medical need, they're there for you every step of the way and like make sure to get you back to feeling 100%. So
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, TBB is really good at like taking care of you when you get sick. You know, they'll go with you to the doctor, to the clinic if needed. I just led a South America semester, and I got 3 parasites. So I got pretty sick. But yeah, it was as simple as like going to a clinic, giving them a sample, and like taking some pills, and then it was gone. So they take care of you, is what we can all agree on. Okay. Okay, how can one person pack their life into one backpack?
You don't need as much as you think. That's my biggest advice. I wore the same 2 shirts, though, pretty much the whole entire trip. Like, I had all these other things, and I ended up mailing them home so that I could buy more stuff and put that in my bag. Because I was like, I wear the same 2 shirts every day. I would just alternate.
Yeah, I think it's so true. You realize that you can live perfectly fine on just like a couple articles of clothing and a toothbrush and, you know, whatever else TBB recommends on the packing list. I think, yeah, as long really all you need is what TBB has on that list. You really learn that you just don't need more than that. I think I don't know what else to say. It's just like you really don't need that much. You just learn to live off a couple articles of clothing.
I would recommend like having little separate bags, like either like gallon-sized Ziploc bags, or I think REI or different outdoor stores have like those small little bags that you can like compress clothing into, and like that's kind of nice to like have like the bag of, you know, clothes, and then the bag of like underwear and socks and like things like that, and then like bags of toiletries. That way, just when you're digging through your bag, you don't have to throw everything out, but it's all kind of like in different compartments.
You'll do a lot of unpacking and repacking.
Yeah, so that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. Don't overpack, because you have to carry your stuff, and honestly, by the end of the trip, you end up wanting to take home stuff. So, I mean, you also, like, I know we, like, dumped clothes in different countries, and we donated them or something. So, like, there's a way to get rid of your stuff if you want to make room for souvenirs when you bring them home, but just don't overpack, because, yeah, you'll just end up regretting it, and you don't need to look cute every day.
Nope.
Yeah, you won't care.
No, you won't care at all.
All right. Okay, this is kind of a big question, but what was your biggest takeaway from your semester?
That's so hard.
That's really hard.
I think what immediately comes to mind for me is this is what I wrote my like final TBB blog post about. I kind of felt like I had like reached this climax after one week in India, and so I wrote this blog post, and this has just like stuck with me as like a major takeaway from TBB. But it's that I learned on this trip that you may think when you're going abroad to do like some volunteer or some service activities that you can make this huge difference. And I think I realized that you have to make yourself fully capable of helping others before you can just jump in and help other people. And so, for example, when we were volunteering in India and we were teaching these kids who only spoke Hindi in these informal schools and slums, I was not qualified to teach them. I didn't know Hindi. I didn't even know what they had been taught before. I was just teaching them some random English vocabulary. And so I just felt like I didn't really make an impact with those kids. I think we made some bonds for sure, but I don't think I really made an educational impact on them. And so a takeaway for me was just that I need to help people where I'm capable of actually helping people. And so that might mean until I become, fluent in Hindi and completely understanding various socioeconomic classes in India, that probably means I'm not going to be an effective volunteer there. So I should look for volunteer opportunities more local and in areas where I have more expertise. And so that's been a major takeaway for me. I have to help volunteer, do whatever I can in a place where I think I'll actually be effective at helping others.
Yeah, I agree with that, as well as, my biggest takeaway was just my whole process of thinking just completely changed throughout this process. I just really honestly learned to question everything and to think about everything and learn that there's like every interaction and everything that goes on throughout your whole life, like more than just on this gap year. That's definitely where I learned it, but there's just so many sides to everything and so many different ways to understand everything, and to perspectives and how to really learn from your experiences, not just have them, not just like go out and do this, but actually come home and think about it and say like, okay, how did I learn from this? Or just to question everything. Yeah.
This is a very TBB answer. That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. TBB. Okay, what are you both doing now? After your gap, I guess what do you guys do like after your gap? Actually, let's start with this question. What did you do the second semester? After?
So for me, I spent my second semester in France. I did a program it was essentially a study abroad program. I just did it not in college. I did it as my gap year. So I was living in a small city in France with a host family. I was taking French classes at the university there, and just trying to become fluent in French. So that was the rest of my gap year. Then this past fall I started here at the University of Virginia. I'm a freshman here. I think, is there anything else I need to answer with that question? Okay.
So for the rest of my gap year, I came home to my baby brother, Thomas. He was a big surprise, and he was born. And that was part of the reason that I decided to do the semester program instead of the full year program, because I wanted to be home when he was born. And so I was there, hung out with him for a little bit. And then I went over to West Africa. I was in Ghana, and I worked in some schools there doing sort of similar to what we did in India, but just teaching different computer skills and then also working with some construction projects. And then I went off to UNCW.
Cool. Do you guys know what you're studying at college?
I do not know for sure. The only thing I do know is that I'd like to minor in French. Other than that, I'm not sure, but TBB has definitely influenced my interests. Now I'm seriously considering like a global development studies major or minor, or possibly social entrepreneurship or economics, something somehow related to TBB, because I loved what I learned there, and I'd like to continue focusing on it.
Yeah, I'm majoring in international studies right now and doing a minor in Spanish, which I'll actually be finishing up this summer. I'm going abroad again to Chile for a couple weeks. So that'll be really cool. Yeah, you'll definitely catch the travel bug after this program. Like you're never going to want to stop. You're just going to fall so madly in love with the world, which is awesome, but it's an expensive little bug. So yeah, so I'm doing international studies in Spanish and then potentially minoring in leadership as well.
Cool. Okay, this is kind of a general question, but what was like one of those moments? I mean, it doesn't have to be your top moment, but just the first one that comes to your head of a moment you're on your gap year on the program and you thought, yeah, this is why I did a gap year, for this moment right here. Like, what was like your favorite moment on the program? It's a hard.
That is hard. Because there were a lot of different moments where I felt like I was just doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, if that makes sense. One moment that comes to mind that just felt like so surreal but so magnificent at the same time was when we were in Thailand, and this was the day that we all got to ride elephants. And so I just remember sitting on this elephant thinking, like, what am I doing? I'm in Thailand sitting on an elephant riding through this gorgeous forest while everyone else in my friend group is in college right now. And so I just remember thinking, like, wow, this is crazy, but I'm so glad I'm doing something different, and I'm just so glad I took a different path. It was so different and cool.
I think the day that comes to mind for me is one day our whole village in Thailand had decided to go on a hike. So it was all the different families, not just our host parents, but everyone wanted to go with us, and our whole group. And so we had no idea where we were going, but we just hike out on this random trail that I had never been on before. And we ended up at this like tree house in the woods, and we like kind of scavenge for this meal. We caught like water bugs and all these different things and cooked them in bamboo shoots over a fire. And we're making all this stuff, and we're making papaya salad and doing all these things. Like everything we gathered, we took it up into the treehouse, and we were all just, sitting crisscross applesauce, us, our Thai families, the other Thai people from the community. And they start singing this Thai song, and someone was there with a ukulele. And it was just like this magical moment in this Thailand forest, in this forest in Thailand, in a treehouse. And, there's music, and everybody's just smiling, and we're passing food around and sharing the workload, and then going to share this like big feast together. And I was just like, I am doing the coolest thing in the world right now with the coolest people. And it was just a really cool day. It was super surreal, crazy to think about.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw this out there. For anybody who is watching and missed the first part, you guys feel welcome to send us questions. There's a side tab on the left side of your screen where you can chat us and send us questions if you want specific ones answered that we haven't answered already. Just throwing it out there for people. Okay. Girls, what are the living conditions like? I know a lot of people are curious about that.
So in Thailand, we started out staying at this place called Eco Resort, which is
amazing.
It's like,
Great food.
Yeah,
The
great food.
cook there is incredible,
But-
and it's so beautiful.
but like perfectly normal living conditions. When we were living with our Thai host families, that's when the living conditions were definitely different from what we're used to here in the States. The house was very small and very simple. We slept on just kind of this thin mattress on the floor with a mosquito net over us. So that was a little bit different. The bathroom situation is also different. We would use squatty potties instead of normal toilets, and also for showering we would bucket bathe. So there would be a giant it was a giant garbage can full of rainwater, and there was just a smaller bucket in there, and you would just use that to rinse yourself off.
You come to love it though.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you don't get hot water, but you get so hot, and after, a long work day or just long days in general, the bucket showers kind of came to be something that I loved.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely different living conditions, but you learn to just accept it and go with it, and it really ends up not. It's not a problem. It's not really something that interferes with the experience at all.
It's just a matter of adapting. But
yeah. And in India, the living conditions were much more similar to what we're used to here, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We have a question from an audience member.
Okay.
I know you guys kind of touched on this earlier, but we can go back over it. But she asked, what made you choose a gap year, and how early did you decide you wanted to take a gap year?
So like I said earlier, I had seen my older brother go through the whole gap year experience and have such a positive experience that I felt like I'd be missing out if I didn't take up this opportunity as well. And I decided, I think pretty late for most people that decide to take a gap year. It was the very end of April of my senior year of high school. So fairly late in the game, I think, but it still gave me enough time to apply to TVB.
Yeah, I had no idea that I was even going to take a gap year. I had applied to all my colleges, gotten all my acceptance letters, ready to narrow it down to which one I was going to. And then I just kind of realized, am I ready for college right now? Because I just really couldn't narrow in on where I wanted to go. And I just had so many unanswered questions. And I had heard of a gap year, and so I started looking into it and stumbled upon TVB, and super glad I did.
Yeah. I know for me, I was even later than that. I graduated high school, and just wasn't excited about college. And so I don't think I ended up applying to Thinking Beyond Borders till June, maybe the beginning of June. I mean, applications are open up till July 31st for this program. So you have time, but it is also helpful to get your application in sooner than later, because then we can help you with fundraising and figure out scholarships and all of that stuff. So if you're hesitant, just go, just do it. Just push the acceptance. I mean, the application button, just apply, because it'll be worth it. Okay, and if any more questions, guys, throw them at us. Thank you for that question. Ladies, let's ask, what was the hardest part for you? Heavy question.
Also a hard one. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. There were a lot of difficult parts. This was probably the hardest thing I had up to that point. That was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. It was hard for me to be away from home for that long, because I'd never been away that long before. It was hard it was both wonderful but also difficult being with such a small group of people every single day for 3 months. I mean, we bonded like I've never bonded with people before, but at the same time, it pushes you to your limits sometimes to be around the same people for that much time. I'm trying to think of what was most challenging. I think just kind of feeling like I was constantly like one step outside of my comfort zone. Sometimes that meant just like a little bit uncomfortable with the living conditions, or a little bit uncomfortable with what I was eating maybe, or a little bit uncomfortable with the way I was being like intellectually challenged, and how different things I thought I knew so well in my life, where I was having to actually challenge those ideas I had had for years. So I just felt like I was being like challenged and pushed outside of my comfort zone a little bit all the time. And I think that was a hard thing to come to terms with, and a hard thing to, just a difficult thing to deal with on a daily basis. But I mean, that's what's required to, I think, reap the rewards of the program. And look, in hindsight, I'm so glad it was that way, but it was difficult for sure.
I just really missed hamburgers. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think definitely being away from my family was the hardest thing for me, just because I love my family so much. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So just being away from all my brothers and sisters, and I don't know, not watching them grow up and stuff was always just like a terrifying thought to me, because I was like, after this, then I go on to college, and yeah, I don't want them to forget about me. And so I guess homesickness was my biggest struggle, but it's okay. And they're so, like, your family's so proud of you when you get back, and you have so much to share with them. And so it's worth it. And you're with so many awesome people. Like, I don't know what I would do without Lauren. She's seriously one of my best friends in the world. And if I didn't go on this trip, then I wouldn't have her. So
yeah. It's true. I mean, that's like the best part about it is like, yes, you're homesick, but you're with 15 other people that are also homesick. So
yeah,
it's like a really great support system. It's really helpful.
Definitely.
Okay, another question from our audience. Have you ever had any regrets about taking a gap year instead of going straight to college? Or did you feel left out when you knew or saw that all your friends were in college? And also, how easy was it to communicate with friends and family back home? So let's answer the first part of that. Did you ever regret taking a gap year, and was it hard watching all your friends go off to college and you did something different?
I never regretted taking a gap year. I've always been so grateful for it. I think one of the hardest thing with my friends back home is that when I came back, I guess I just felt like they didn't really understand. I couldn't like truly express the experience that I had to them. For them, it was more just like, what did you eat? Like, where did you stay? Or was it pretty? And, you know, like, it was so much more than that. And I just wanted them to truly get it. But they just didn't, because they just didn't know. We had completely different years. Like my gap year and then their first year of college were just really different and really hard to like relate to, I guess. So that was the hardest issue with friends. But no, I definitely wasn't jealous or anything like that, because like Lauren said, it wasn't like I was never going to go to college. I was just going a year later. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't missing out on the college experience. I was just doing it a year later.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think even when I saw my friends going off to college, I didn't really feel like jealous of them or like I was missing out at all, because I felt like what I was doing, I was so proud of what I was doing, and felt like it was so cool that I didn't feel like I was missing out, and I felt like everything great about the experiences that they were having, I was going to have just a year later. So that wasn't really an issue. And I've never regretted taking a gap year. There have been moments when I've wondered, like, how would my college experience be different if I hadn't taken a gap year? How would it be different if I was the same age as all of my peers in my grade. I have wondered that because I will say it's been a sort of difficult transition for me into college, and so I've wondered how a gap year has impacted that for me. But I've never regretted it. I've always been happy with my decision. I've always been happy that I got to have the experience that I had. And just to throw this out there too, I've run into so many people that have said, "Oh, you did a gap year. I wish I had done that."
Mm-hmm.
But I've never met a person who said, "Oh, I did a gap year and I regret it." So,
yeah.
That just gave me goosebumps. Truth. Yeah, I would say I agree. Yeah, the hardest part is relating with your friends when you get home, just because you had such a life-changing experience that was just so different from theirs. So yeah, it's hard to relate. That's why TVB friends are your friends forever, because those are like the only people that get you, that get that side of you. So it's cool. The TVB community is so tight that it definitely helps. I mean, it's hard transitioning back, but it's way helpful having a group of people that 100% get what you're going through and can help you through it. Second part of our question was, how easy was it to communicate with friends and family back home?
It was not, we didn't always have access, like internet access, to communicate with friends and family back home. I would say I think the longest we ever went without any communication was, I think, only a week. That was when we were in Thailand. When we were in our Thai village, there was no internet access. There was no way of being in touch with friends and family. And even though we were in that village for 2.5 weeks, halfway through, we went into a larger city where we did have internet access. So we didn't always have that connection, but I don't know, for me, that it felt like an appropriate amount of connection back home, enough to be like telling my family what I was doing and how my experience was going. But I also felt distanced enough to be having my own independent experience where I was challenging myself to be okay with just being with myself and the other people around me and not having this connection to the people back home.
Yeah. And just comparing my experience with TBB, and then for the second part of my gap year when I went to Ghana, we were allowed to bring our cell phones on that trip. And so we did have Wi-Fi access whenever we were in accessible areas. You know, everyone had individual access to communication and stuff. And honestly, I really preferred TVB being able to disconnect, because I think it brought me so much closer to the people I was with and to the experience. Because there were times in Africa where I would go out to dinner with my group, and if it was a restaurant with Wi-Fi, we were all like this the whole dinner conversation. Whereas with TVB, like, you're constantly engaging in your surroundings and not worrying about what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's super valuable to the experience, is to not always be worried about what's going on at home and what people are posting on Instagram or tweeting about, and to just really engage with the people that you're with in the areas that you're in.
Yeah, just to make that real clear, so yeah, we don't allow you to bring your cell phones or your laptops or iPads, like no Wi-Fi devices. But we do have communal laptops. We bring like 4 or 5 laptops that you guys are allowed to share. And those are what are used to send emails back home, to post blogs, to post pictures. So we do want you to, you know, still be able to connect with the family, as well as your program leaders will be sending emails home to keep your parents at ease, so they know that you guys are safe and doing okay. So the communication is possible, but then, like they said, in some situations you're living in a village and there's not much hope there. Like on my gap year, living with an indigenous tribe in the middle of the Amazon in Ecuador. So internet like wasn't even a thing there. So so I just wrote a lot of letters. And it was fine. You can Skype parents, go to internet cafes if your house doesn't have internet. So you find ways, but like I said, it's so nice to disconnect.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, yeah, it definitely encourages you to actually participate in what's going on. And honestly, I think it helps with homesickness. Because I feel like the more you talk to family and the more you know about what's going on at home, that makes you homesick. But if, like, you're separate from it and you don't know what's going on, and instead you're just like, oh, my family, yeah, I miss them. But you don't know that they're all together right now celebrating your brother's birthday or something. It just helps. It helps you stay focused on what matters, what's going on. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, you want them in, I mean, put them in now, because as we're tying things up. But girls, I'll ask you just one last question. Do you have any advice? Like, what is something that you wish someone had told you before you went, or like even something you wish you'd brought, or just anything? Any final advice for future students?
Don't say no to any opportunities unless they're life-threatening or something like that. But if you're tired, go do it. Go do whatever everyone else is doing, because you'll regret it, and you can sleep later.
You can sleep on the plane.
So yeah, like, I mean, the main things I regret about my trip are like the nights where I was just super tired and I didn't go out with other people to another villager's house or into the city to do this. Like, just do everything and anything you can to make the experience as rich as it possibly can.
I would also say go into it as open-mindedly as possible. Yeah. I think you'll get so much more out of it if you are really open to hearing other people's perspectives, other cultures' perspectives. If you're just as open-minded as you can possibly be, I think that helps the experience be as enriching as it can be. Trying to think about advice of things to pack. Ziploc bags. Yeah. That's probably it. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, ladies, thank you. Everybody that's watching, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the questions. This will be posted on our YouTube page, Thinking Beyond Borders. Just search that on YouTube. It'll be posted there. So if you missed part of it, you can go back through when we watch it. And if you want to tune in again, we are doing one last broadcast next Thursday at 3:30 Pacific. So that's 6:30 Eastern. Yeah, you can figure out your time zone. But yeah, hope you guys, hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, anything, reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to help you make the decision to have this incredible experience that all three of us can attest to being the great.
Do it. Go. Sign up. It's awesome.
Sign up. All right. Thank you, ladies. And
yeah, thank you.
Everyone, have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. TPB forever.